Was 2026 the year you decided you want to set up some home automation for your house or apartment? And maybe you've heard about this free system called Home Assistant and you're curious about it. If that describes you, then you've come to the right place. Because in this video, we're going to walk through the complete setup of a Home Assistant system from start to finish, from what to buy on Amazon, to unboxing and connecting all the hardware, and then building a simple automation that turns on a light. I'm not going to just describe the steps, I'm going to show you in real time right here on my laptop as we work all the way through it. And then you can come back to this video and follow along to build your own system when you're ready. So you're going to want to watch this all the way through to see how easy it is to get this set up and running. Save the video for later, and then you can build your own system when you're ready and add to it over time as you dream up things to automate. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Doug. Welcome to my channel where we talk about using technology to make your day-to-day life a little bit easier. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, you should probably hit subscribe down below. I put out a few of these videos every month. Now, like I said, we're going to go through this together in real time. No scripts, no teleprompters, so I might make a few mistakes along the way, but I'll point them out if I do. It'll probably take us about 15 to 20 minutes to get through everything, and then you can come back and follow through step by step on your own whenever you're ready. All right, well, let's start off with the basics. First off, what is Home Assistant? Home Assistant is an open source home automation platform. Now, hopefully the last part, home automation platform, is pretty straightforward, but open source, what does that mean if you're not familiar with the term? Open source is a way that computer software comes together sometimes when it's put together by volunteers who are just doing it for the sake of doing that. It's not software created by a commercial company that then obviously wants to charge for it, all those types of things. So what's nice about open source is that nobody really kind of controls it. There are people that are in charge of the project, but all the source code is out there on the public internet. So even if the people in charge of the project suddenly said, hey, we want to start charging for this, anybody else could just go and say, well, we're just going to make a different version of this, and it's all the same software, would work with all the same hardware. So it really gives you a good future-proof solution, number one. Number two, because there's no dependencies on cloud or a service plan, it doesn't cost you anything to run it. So all the software is free. And there are now, I think, over 20,000 developers worldwide all contributing to this project. So I think it's got a great foundation to build from. But that's just the software piece of things. Then we need hardware for it to run on. And so that's some of what we brought here today. I've got links down below for all where you can buy on these on Amazon. And so we're going to start out with unboxing this device. This is the Home Assistant Green. This is a turnkey Home Assistant hardware device. I think that there's a lot of different ways you can get Home Assistant running on various types of hardware. We'll talk about that in a little bit when we unbox it here. I think this is an amazing turnkey solution. If this is all very new to you, this is a great way to start. So that's kind of the brains of our system. The brains need eyes and ears to kind of know what's going on. So we've got a infrared motion sensor here that can integrate into that. Then we're going to want to control something. In this particular example, we're going to control a light. So we've got a light here that's controllable as well. And then we need a way for these devices to all communicate with each other. And so that's this item here. So we're going to start unboxing all of these and show you exactly how it all goes together. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the unboxing. I just need to get the parts out on the table here. And then we'll start showing you how this all hooks up. And then we'll move to the PC and start showing you the software setup and build our test automation. So let's dig in. Okay, so I said the first item was the Home Assistant Green server. So like I said, we need some type of computer for the software to run on, and the people behind the Home Assistant project went ahead and created their own hardware form factor. You can run Home Assistant on other pieces of hardware, and that's one of the challenges I think sometimes with the Home Assistant ecosystem is that you find a lot of forum and blog post items going back years and years saying, well, you know, you need to run it in a Proxmox virtual machine or a Docker container or in Kubernetes or something like that. And if those things are not familiar terms to you, then I think this is a great option for you. There are some people that obviously have been using those ways to provide the hardware, and that's fine. So this is not the only way to get this hardware running, but like I said, if you're not familiar with any of those technologies, this is a very easy, simple turnkey solution to get that up and running. So We got a little bit of paperwork and instructions here. Throw those away. You'll need a wired network cable. They include one in here. This will need to connect to your wired broadband. So wherever your broadband router is, you're going to want to put that there. And then you're going to put this device right within cable length reach of that. And so this is the Home Assistant Green server. It's, I think, a very, very nice kind of case, clear. You can kind of see some of the components in it. There's some LEDs that light up here. And then on the back, we have our network connection. We have our power connection. And then there are two USB connections. So we're going to use those at some point as well. And so then obviously the power connection that comes in here, you just find the right plug for that. I'm in the US, so I choose the US-based plug and put that on here, and now that's our power connection for that, and then we have our network connection. So that's the first item. So that's kind of our brains of our solution overall. So we're gonna get that set up here. We'll connect that to my network in just a minute. I mentioned that we need some eyes and ears, and so the eyes and ears are this item. This is, I need my knife to open this. This is a traditional infrared motion sensor. Home alarm systems have had these forever. These are available in a lot of shapes and sizes. This is just one particular vendor that I've had good luck with their motion sensors before, so I just keep kind of buying the same ones, but you can get a lot of different versions. This runs on a battery. I've found it has pretty good life. I get maybe a year or two out of a battery on that. And then you just need to replace the battery in there. There are some other versions that have just a permanent connection to electrical power from a wall outlet. You could use that if you want to. And so let me just get any last parts out of here. Instruction manuals. Okay. There's a little stand that comes with it. I don't usually end up using these, so I got kind of a drawer sitting around with these, but you can kind of go and attach this. There is a battery pull tab here at the bottom. We're not going to pull this yet, because once I do, the battery goes live, and it's going to start looking for a home automation platform to connect itself to. So we're going to hold off on doing that for just a little bit. This is pretty straightforward. This is a light bulb. But this is a light bulb that knows how to talk about being in home automation. So this is more of a ceiling light bulb than a table lamp or a desk lamp kind of light bulb. So I'm going to get a little outlet on here on the table in just a second for powering that up. Nothing else in there. And then lastly is what we're going to use here for all the devices to communicate. Now, there's actually a lot of different ways that a Home Assistant software installation, a brain, if you will, can communicate with sensors and devices. You'll hear a lot about a lot of different protocols like Zigbee and Z-Wave and Thread and Matter and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And Home Assistant can actually interact with devices on all of those network standards. So I could actually be doing some of this without this device. If this bulb spoke Wi-Fi and if this sensor spoke Wi-Fi, I could put it all together and just have these elements here. Wi-Fi tends to use a lot of electricity though, so especially for like little battery-based sensors, we want something a little bit different there. And so the protocol that I'm going to be using here is called Zigbee. And this is just a little USB radio and antenna here. There we go. A little USB radio and antenna that I'll just hook up to the back of the Home Assistant system when we're ready to go and do that part of the setup. So pretty straightforward. And then the antenna will fold up. So yeah, so this is everything that we need. We need the Home Assistant brain here. We need the radio antenna. We need a sensor for it to watch what's going on. And then we need a light bulb for it to turn on and build the automation there. So let's start building all of this. All right, so we've unboxed all of our hardware. Again, all this hardware is down below in the description, and we're going to start setting it up here live. No teleprompters, no scripts, so we're going to see how it goes, see how long it takes us to get through this. According to the clock, it's about 6:27 p.m. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to start with the main system, the Home Assistant Green server. I'm going to plug in power and network on the back of that. I have those cables here. And we'll let that start booting up. And you'll probably see some lights start blinking on the front of that as it starts going and registering itself on your network. So what I want to do now is I want to go and I want to access this so I can start setting it up. And I'm going to suggest doing this on a desktop or a laptop. I think it just works better that way. And so I want you to go to a browser. I want you to open up a tab, and then I want you to type in http://homeassistant.local:8123. Now, this is probably one of the things that will catch some people up on this. When a device comes online, it needs to register itself on your network, it needs to get a name, and every broadband router could potentially do this a little bit differently. So I'm going to use homeassistant.local here. It could also be homeassistant.home. Just Home Assistant, homeassistant.lan, but you need that :8123 at the end of it to be able to access it. So let's try this here. All right, and what you can see now is it is preparing Home Assistant. So we just gave it power. It needs to take a little bit of time to go and do the software installation. So we're gonna let this run for a little bit, and then we'll come back and take a look at it in just a second. Okay, that didn't take anywhere near 20 minutes. It took more about 5 minutes overall. So now I can go in here and just click on Create My Smart Home. And I'm gonna create a user account. Now, one of the things that I'm going to suggest here, you might be thinking, oh, okay, he's going to type in Doug here because his name's Doug. I'm not going to use that for this account. This comes from a lot of IT best practices. I've worked in IT most of my career, and there's a general principle on having an account that has high privilege levels. You use that sparingly. You only use it from time to time when you want to go in and make changes. And then for day-to-day usage of something, you just have a regular user account for this. So I'm going to create a user here called admin, and I'd strongly suggest maybe following along and doing the same. We'll create additional users in a bit here. And then for the password, I'm just going to say hi Tech Life, and then create account. One of the things that you will end up doing eventually once you get your system configured is you'll define your home address, and then what Home Assistant will be able to do is it'll be able to know when you're home or when you're away from your home based on your iPhones or your Android phones and the companion application that goes with it. And then you can have certain automations that will go based on whether you're there or not. You may want to know if a door or window opens when you're not there, but you don't want to know about that when you're home. So go ahead and select an address here. I'm going to put in the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C., just as our location. There are a bunch of switches here in terms of sending some additional helpful data to the Home Assistant team. I think these are helpful to turn on. If you want to leave them off, that's fine. Okay. So once we've set it up, now this is the first page that we land in. This is your primary dashboard. You're going to see over here on the left says Overview. There's some map-based views. There'll be some things in here in terms of if you have solar panels or batteries, you can track things in there. And then you can look at the history or the activity of what's happened in here. So what we need to do now is we need to go and start building all of this that we talked about before. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the Zigbee radio, then we're going to add the light bulb, and then we're going to add the sensor. So the first thing that you want to do is take the antenna here, and it's just a USB device. So we're going to stick that on one of the USB ports there. And then it'll take a second or so to recognize, and then I want you to go into Settings here and Integrations, and what you should see is this Sonoff Zigbee dongle has now been detected. So all you have to do is click Add, and it should ask me if I want to set up a new network automatically, so go ahead and select that. and this will form a new Zigbee network. So Zigbee is a communications protocol. It's wireless. It doesn't rely on any of your home broadband network infrastructure. It just runs completely on its own. So it's kind of nice. I like using it for the communication for a lot of my devices with each other. So this will go through, and it has, okay, so now it's saying the device has been created. So now I have this Zigbee radio antenna attached to the Home Assistant server. I don't have any devices yet, but that's what we're going to build out next. Now, anytime you add a device, it gives you an option to define a location, an area where you put that in: office, bedroom, family room, kitchen. Usually for things that are part of just core infrastructure, I just define those as infrastructure. This is optional. You don't have to do this. You could just leave this outside of any area. You click Finish here, and now we have the radio, the antenna functioning in here. So now that we have the radio and the antenna functioning in here, I want you to go back. I want you to go to Integrations again, Settings, and then Integrations. And now I want you to go to Zigbee Home Automation down here, and I want you to click on Add Device. And what we're going to do then is we're going to go and turn on our light bulb. I've got it on a small switch here. It's powered off right now. When the light bulb comes on, it's going to cycle through a few colors, which lets us know that it's trying to find a Zigbee controller somewhere out there. So I'm going to add the device. And now it's searching for Zigbee devices. So I'll turn this on. And now you can see on the desktop here, it's already been recognized. It recognized that the manufacturer is Third Reality, and I can just change this to some other name like Office Desk Lamp. This is not a desk lamp. This is more of a ceiling light, but anyways, and I might just say Den as the location to put that. And now it says the device is ready to use. So if I go back into my overview page here, now what I should see is an area called Den, and then a device called Office Desk Lamp, and a little switch over here. I can click the switch, and the lamp goes off. I can click the switch again, lamp goes on. I can click more detail here, and I can set different brightness levels for it. I can change the colors of it, so if you want it to be blue or purple, reddish color. So these are all the things that we can do to kind of control this. I'm going to turn this down because it's just very, very bright. And then if I turn it off, it will go all the way off to 0. Turn it on, it will remember the previous setting that we had there. So now we have the office lamp set up. So now what I need is the motion sensor. So this was the motion sensor we talked about before. I pulled the battery tab. There's a small reset button on the back of this, and once I hit reset on that, that will also look for joining a Zigbee network on here. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go to Integrations, Zigbee Home Automation, Add Device, and now the system, again, it's listening for new devices to come online, and I'll just go ahead and hit this button on the back here. It's very, very small. I think I have to hold it for about 5 seconds, and then it starts blinking. And now we see this in our configuration here. So you can see this is called a Lumi motion sensor, and I can just say Den motion sensor for when I'm coming in and out of the den. And now this device is all set. So now we can see another item in here. So a minute ago we just had Office Desk Lamp and this switch right here. Now I see motion sensor, I see an illuminance reading and an occupancy reading. So what I should be able to do here is go with the motion sensor and push my hand in front of it. And now you can see it has changed to detected. So now it's detected that, hey, someone's in the room. Now, I was testing this a little bit earlier and I kept triggering this thing falsely. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take the box that this came in and I'm going to drop it in here so that the sensor's facing upwards, and then we can just wave our hand over that when we want to go and trigger an automation here. So I'm going to turn off the desk lamp again. And so now I have the basic pieces here. I have the brains running. We have the radio network, the Zigbee radio. I have the light bulb that is controllable from my desktop here. And I also have the motion sensor. So now what I need to do is I need to start tying all these things together. And this is what's called an automation. So an automation Home Assistant is basically three things. It is what is the trigger, what is going to cause this routine to fire. Number two, are there any conditions in which you want it to fire or not? And then number three, what are the actions that should take? So now what we're seeing here in the desktop is my motion sensor is clear. So it thinks no one is nearby. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on settings. I'm going to go to automations. And I don't have any automations in here. So I want to go ahead and create one. Okay, and so we're going to select create new automation here. And here's where you see the three things that I talked about. The trigger that will cause the automation to start executing, conditions that would cause the automation to maybe execute or maybe not, and then the things that we want done. So what we want done here is when our motion sensor sees motion, we want to turn the light on. So we're going to go ahead and add a trigger. We're going to find our device, and we will find the motion sensor, and you select here for the trigger when it starts detecting motion. And then what we want to do is we want to add an action. And what we want to do is for a device, we want to find our desk lamp and say turn on desk lamp. And so you save, you give this kind of an interesting name. I like to put the name of the room that I'm going to have this automation in, so I'll say den. And now this automation is in place in our system. So what I should be able to do now is I'll go back to my dashboard. The motion sensor is clear. The desk office lamp is currently off. And what we should be able to do now is simply wave our hand over the motion sensor and the desk lamp automatically turns on. So this is how we go and get these automations built in our system one at a time. So if I go in, I look at my automations, now this is in here. I'm going to describe something else that you can use for this. You saw we had a trigger and we had an action. I want to create a condition here, and maybe I want this automation to fire sometimes and not fire other times. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create what's known as a helper. A helper, in this particular case, is just going to be something where it's kind of like a light switch. It's on or it's off. It's going to be what's called a toggle or a Boolean, but basically I'm going to have a switch in here to say I want automation to control the lights, or maybe I don't want that to happen all the time. So you're going to want to create a helper, and it is going to be a toggle, and I might just call it automated lighting and then create that. And so now what I can do is I can alter the behaviors of our home just by going in and changing a few of these settings, and I don't have to go into each automation rule and change that over and over again. So I'm going to say I want to turn automated lighting on, and then I'll go back to my automations, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a condition in here, and for this I'm going to say entity state, and I say automated lighting. And if that state is on, then we want this to go ahead and we want this to fire. And what you can do here is you can run a test on these. If you click the three items over here, you can hit test and you'll see the condition passes. So right now, if the motion sensor started detecting motion, it would turn on the office lamp because this is turned on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that switch off, and then you'll see the motion sensor doesn't control this anymore. Okay, so now what you see is my main overview dashboard page. I have the den page here. Everything is the way it was a few seconds ago. I have the automated lighting switch on here, so we have a switch for helpers. And so everything should happen the way it did before. I went ahead and I just created motion. That turned on the light. The light will just stay on until I turn it off here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. And right now the motion sensor, it lingers a little bit. It says, you know, hey, I'm gonna wait a few seconds before I check to see if there's been motion again. But I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna turn the automated lighting helper off. And once I do that, and once the motion sensor goes away from the detected state, so we gotta wait a second for that here, what I should be able to do is wave my hand over this and it will not turn on the light this time. So we can see now the motion sensor is listed as clear. The automated lighting helper is turned off, so that conditional will basically stop the automation right there. And no behavior from that. So this is how you go, and this is how you build up automations inside of Home Assistant, and you just add more sensors and more controllable devices over time. There are other things that you can create those conditions for, like sunrise or sunset, or I'm sleeping, or we're away from the home. So there's a lot of things you can go and create in here. But the next thing that I want you to do as you're setting this up is I want you to go into Settings and then System, and I want you to go and start to create backups inside of your Home Assistant installation. Really, really important, especially as you're getting started out. If you kind of make some mistakes and you want to roll back, this system can go ahead and create backups for you. So the easiest thing to do would just be to say backup now. It's going to make you set up the backup routine. It's going to give you an encryption key for this because your backups are encrypted, but it is going to store it locally on that hardware, so it's not a cloud backup. There's an option for a cloud backup. We'll talk about that a little bit. And it's going ahead and it's creating the backup now. It's a very small configuration, so it took a few seconds to create a backup. But now if I needed to kind of go and revert to one of these, I can absolutely go and do that. So I find that this is good to do before you do any sort of version upgrades in Home Assistant. There's always sort of new versions of the software coming out. I usually just run a backup, download it locally, do the upgrade. If the upgrade's fine, then I don't worry about it. But if something went wrong, I have a local copy of the backup overall. I also mentioned that we were going to set up additional users. We weren't just going to use admin all the time. So for this, you go into Settings and then People. And you can see here we just have our admin user. So I'm going to go ahead and create an additional user. Doug, use my name here. And we're going to allow the login there and set a password. And we could lock this person to only access Home Assistant locally inside of our network instead of over the public internet. Or we could make them an administrator. So there's a few basic controls here, but I'm just going to go ahead and create that person. And now I have an individual user. And that user account is what we'll use for the mobile application that goes along with Home Assistant. So we'll talk about that in just a second, but one last thing to think about here in terms of your configuration on this. So in this overview dashboard, when we only have a few things in here, that's pretty straightforward, but once you start to add dozens or hundreds of devices, this gets pretty crowded. So what you'll also probably want to do is you'll want to start creating your own custom dashboards. And so you just go into Settings and Dashboards, and you can go ahead and create one. I'm going to create a new one from scratch. There's some templates in there, but I'll say my first dashboard. And the add to sidebar here, we'll add this over into the sidebar over here. And when we click on that, you'll see that that's empty. And so you click on this little pencil icon in the upper right here when you want to go and edit that and add some things to that. So if I want to go in and add a button for my light, it's already actually picked that because there's very few simple things that we can control that way. And then if I wanted to add just an indicator of motions and my little clear or detected indicator there, I can go ahead and do that. And now I have a more simple dashboard. Actually, I'm going to go in and I'm going to add in an item for my automated lighting so that I can turn that off and on. You can change these icons if you want, but now if I click on this, the automated lighting is now on. So now I should be able to, again, wave my hand over this. and we get the lighting. And the office desk lamp, you can see, also came on at the exact same moment that this went into detected. I'll go ahead and turn that off. So you're going to want to build some custom dashboards for your users, for your family members as you go in and do this, and use this off of those standard user accounts. Use your admin account for coming in and creating dashboards or making new automations, but then for just day-to-day usage of the home automation platform, you just use these regular accounts for that. Okay, so let's work on getting the mobile device set up so we can control some of our devices mobile, and we can maybe get notifications on them. So you're going to want to go into the App Store for your platform. I'm on an iPhone here, so it's the Apple Store. Android would be the Google Play Store, I think. And then just search for Home Assistant. And then just do the installation. And then just open the application. And then you should get some configuration where it will search on your home network to find out where your Home Assistant system is installed. Now, because I have a few different Home Assistant systems on my home network, it's detected a couple of them here, so you wouldn't maybe normally see this, but I happen to know that the one that we just set up is the number 161 here, so I'm going to go ahead and tap on that. And now it's going to ask me for the username. And so this is where you'd use that user account that we created just for the individual day-to-day use. And so I'm going to say Doug, and password. And log in. And then it'll ask you to sort of name your device. So you might have a few mobile devices in your family, some tablets, things like that. You're going to want to give each one a unique name. That way you can control where some notifications would go. This is fine. This is my iPhone 15 Pro Max. And share my location. This will help you with setting up those automations that'll automatically turn on or turn off or behave differently whether you're home or your family's home. So it's a good thing to allow this to go and see where your location is. Some people might be concerned about it, so you can choose something otherwise, but I'm going to say allow while using application, and then it suggests here changing it to always allow. This is just an iOS security protocol. I'm sure in Android they do something similar. I'm going to say change that to always allow, and then I should be able to see notifications, so critical notifications. And now we have our overview dashboard, the same thing that we had before where we had everything on the desktop here. We have the office lamp, we have the motion sensor light. I can turn the office lamp on just by tapping on the button on the mobile phone. I can go and I can trigger the motion sensor. You see that just changed to detected. The light didn't go on though because the automated lighting switch here, that helper, remember that we set that up? That's turned off. So if I wait till the motion sensor goes back to cleared and I turn that on the mobile app here and then wave my hand over that again, the desk lamp will go on. Okay, and so I'll show that now. So we turn the automated lighting on and now the light turns on automatically. The last thing that we'll do is we'll set up a notification so that when certain events happen in our house, so something was seen on a motion sensor, we can get a notification on our phone. So I'm going to go back to the desktop to do this where I'm logged in as admin. And to get a notification here, I'm going to go in and I'm going to go back into my automations. And I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to pick up on that motion sensor. Started detecting motion, and now what I want to do is I want to notify. And you can see here I have a device down at the end here, send a notification to mobile apps, Doug's iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I can say, I can put in a title here, and then I can put in a message and say, motion was just seen in the den. And then I'll save that. Name on it. All right, so now what should end up happening is I should be able to pick up my phone and then create motion in front of the motion sensor. And there we go. We get the notification right inside the application. And there it is, in just under 24 minutes from when I started unboxing the hardware. We did the initial software setup, added our radio antenna and devices, set up users and backups and dashboards, and we built automations to turn on lights based on motion or to send mobile phone notifications. These really are the basics. If you can get all of these building blocks down, building out the rest of your system over time is just repeating some of these steps over and over again until you end up with a system like mine where I have over 315 devices in my setup. I may need some professional help. All this hardware is down below, and if you order all that, you should be able to do exactly what I did here in under 30 minutes. If you're having setup trouble, try posting here in a comment down below, and I'll try to help out if I can. And lastly, I'll be following this video up with another one soon on more advanced setups for Home Assistant now that you've got the basics down. So be sure to subscribe down below to see when that comes out. And so until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.